Good morning. Happy Saturday. Had a little bit of a challenge getting on the air this morning, but I'm super excited now to be back on the air, to be live here out of my studio at home in Columbia, South Carolina. I'm Casey Whitener, the host of Right on SC. And this morning we're going to speak with Barbara Evers, who is an author from the Upstate of South Carolina. I'm excited to have her with me. But before we do that, let's, do a little branding. Why not? This is Right on SC, author interviews. Good morning, Barbara. How are you?
Hey, I'm well. How are you?
I'm getting over it. I'm getting over my morning disappointment. I'm trying to infuse a little enthusiasm into me today. The weather's happy outside. I almost wanted this morning. I was like, I'm going to put my glasses on because I don't need sunglasses today. And then I was like, no, rally, Casey, rally. Like, let's low energy days. You know what I mean? So we're going to hang out. You and I hopefully keep the energy going here this morning. And then
Sure.
I'll probably go crawl on my couch and nap for the rest of the day.
That sounds like a plan. I wish I could do that.
Yeah, like read a book, watch a little, So look, welcome to the broadcast. Thank you so much for
Thanks.
being part of our SCWA broadcast last weekend. We had so much fun at the conference last weekend. And I know you and I met through SCWA, but we really started hanging out at one of these conferences up
Right.
in the Carolina Con
Right.
years ago, as we were following David Coe around and hanging out with our girl, Casey LaCourte. And so since then, though, I've just been a huge fan of yours, learning more about you, and you're a professional trainer in your like real job life, but in your fiction life, you're into fantasy fiction, and you've written this fantastic series called The Watchers of Moniah. And I want to talk a little bit about your journey. How did you get here? How did fiction become the thing you were doing?
Fiction has always been the thing I was doing. And, training was the thing that paid the bills, but I have been writing for as long as I can remember, and writing everything, short stories, essays, no poems. I'm not very good at poetry, but
yeah, amen,
writing,
sister. Me neither.
I always feel bad to admit that, but I'm just not. I wrote this pathetic poem in a creative writing class in high school, and I was just like, oh, something about jumping over a fence. It's horrible. But I started writing a long time ago. I remember when I was a teenager, I would enter 17 magazine had a creative writing contest. I entered it every single year. And the thing was, you had to have your material notarized. You had to have a statement notarized that it was your own material.
Oh, wow.
And this was back when you mailed stuff in. So my dad had a secretary who was a notary, and we'd always troop down, and she would notarize it, and I'd send it off, and I didn't win, and and on we would go. But I got my first publication in college, which was kind of weird. It was at Clemson. Clemson briefly had a literary journal that came out, and I was in that as an honorable mention. And then I had this dearth of no publication for years and years and years, but I was still writing. Mm-hmm. I started really gearing up after my kids grew up and left. I had been writing The Watchers of Mania in my head, but I hadn't written The Watchers of Mania until they left. And so I was on a podcast a few weeks ago, and he kept saying, it took you 20 years. I was like, well, no, it didn't take me 20 years to write it. It took me 20 years to publish it. There's a difference. And a lot of people don't understand. Sometimes it takes a long time to get something published.
Right.
So I did start writing it early 2000. But seriously writing it about 2007 and finished it in 2008. And what I finished ended up actually being book 1 and 2.
Okay.
Long story there that, if we have time, we'll talk about, but just suffice it to say, somebody said, what happens between here and here? And I'm like, oh, I was worrying that somebody would ask that question. So I wrote what happened between here and there. And, some people say, don't do what an agent tells you to do, but she was really interested. And I thought I might be going, she was talking to me about how she knew which publisher she was going to submit it to and all this stuff. And I'm like, you know what, if nothing else, these could be little short stories that I put out after the book gets published if we decide not to use it. But we actually did use it, which made me write. The thing was already like 102,000, 103,000 words. So we split it, and I ended up with roughly 96,000 in each book. And then when I signed with my publisher last year, he said, I need you to write book 3 before I'm going to publish it. He's an indie publisher. I get it. He doesn't want to start a series and me not finish it.
Right.
So I wrote book 3 in 3 months.
Oh
and
my
it's
goodness.
116,000 words.
Holy cow.
I
That's a long
know.
book.
It is, but when you're closing down an epic fantasy trilogy, you have all these threads you have to tie together.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's great. I actually think it's the best of the 3 books.
Nice.
And just I'm so excited that they're finally out there, because since I had them all 3 written, we could go boom, 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 publish, publish, publish.
Right.
And so December, January, and March, they all came out, and all 3 are published. And a year ago, I didn't even have an offer yet a year ago. It was like June when he offered. So
Wow.
that happened.
That's fast.
Yes.
Yeah. All 3 books that fast. That's pretty amazing. So
Yeah.
the Watchers of Mania begins with a young woman. Is it that her mother dies? Is that the inciting incident?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Adana is being trained as a watcher, which is the elite female warriors that are part of the Kingdom of Mania. You can kind of think of them as like the Secret Service.
Okay.
So they protect the queen, but the queen is also a watcher, and watchers are gifted with certain skills related to vision. So they have incredible aim, beyond belief aim. It's just nobody else could do it. They notice all sorts of minute little details, and it cues them in on danger or something that's coming. They also have visions and dreams that are prophecy. And so one of the things that happens in the beginning of the book is Adana's mother is ill, and Adana's 15 at this point, and you can't be queen till you're 18. And everyone thinks her mother's going to die, and she's like, nope, not going to happen. I'm going to make a deal with the creator. If I pass this trial that will get me promoted in the Watchers, he's going to save her. He's going to heal her, and I've got time to just, be a kid for a little while longer. And she passes the trial, but he doesn't heal her mother, because there was a prophecy that her mother knew about. And in that prophecy, it hinted that if Adana stayed in Mania in those 3 years before she could take the throne, that something horrible would happen to her. So her mother writes a decree that's to be read on her deathbed, which says, yeah, you're going to Elwar, which is their allied kingdom, and you're going to stay there until you can be queen. And this is pretty rough on her, because I've got the giraffes in the book. And
yes.
I wear my giraffe shirt. Do you see do you see the giraffes?
I do. I'm so excited. Your giraffe obsession is like one of my favorite things about you.
People send me giraffe things all the time. But let me think how to explain it. The royal family each bonds with a giraffe. Now, it's a bond that is agreeable between the giraffe and the royal. And there is a tower of giraffes, and tower is what you call a grouping. Mm-hmm. So tower of giraffes that stay at we call it the estate or the fortress. It's not really the castle.
Right.
And then whenever a new queen rises up, some of those giraffes go back out into the wilderness and new ones come in. So we kind of don't get, inbreeding going on. Right. But not that I say that in the book. Right. But anyway, they bond with this giraffe telepathically. And so what happens is they can communicate and they can see through each other's eyes. And there's a really wild experience she has in the first chapter of her giraffe, whose name is Ambrosia, taking over their sight, because the watcher who is overseeing her with this trial asks her to do one more thing. It's an archery trial. But she asks her to do one more thing after she succeeds in passing the trial, but she says she has to do it connected to the giraffe, because during any war or battle, she would be connected to the giraffe, and only royals are connected. And that's an essential part of their military strategy. So she doesn't want to, because she knows that if she does, Ambrosia is over near where her mother's giraffe is, and her mother's giraffe is also dying because she's bonded to her mother, and she don't want to see that. But she ends up having to do it, and she briefly sees her mother's giraffe, and then their vision shifts, and it's this crazy thing where the giraffe takes her across the kingdom, actually hopping from other giraffe sight. So they zoom across the plains. They ram into a giraffe. Now they're looking through that giraffe's eyes. Then they go to another and another and another till they end up way on the borders of the kingdom. And they're seeing this attack on a village. And the giraffe points her to this person sitting up on a horse on the hill overseeing it. And she realizes by a few characteristics, this might be Malagon. And Malagon is a traitor who's supposed to be dead. And he's the one that the prophecy actually was about, but she doesn't know about the prophecy at that point. So she ends up going to Elwar, and he is trying his level best to seize her throne during this time. And so the whole series has to do with what he's doing to try to take over and what she's doing to try to, 1, become a queen, 2, learn her own watcher skills, 3, figure out what's going to happen, with her kingdom and 3 other kingdoms, because there's 4 kingdoms that are kind of allied together. So it's quite a ride, to say the least.
Among all of that, mourning her mother. So
yeah, because she's going to be separated from her mother, and when they send her to Elwar, she has to be separated from the giraffe too. And the giraffe, the bond, actually, it feels like a stretched rubber band, stretched way out of shape. And so it's really painful to be separated from the giraffe. And so she's also trying to figure out how to calm that down so that she can function, because Elwar's queen has decided she doesn't like her. So she's always dealing with this person who's making things kind of rough. But
Well, so you said that it wasn't your intention to write YA, but that because this character's young, she's 15 when the book begins, so it sort of lends itself to YA. Were there some things related to that genre, some rules in that genre that you felt like you had to curb your storytelling, or did that genre allow you to sort of expand the storytelling opportunity?
To be honest with you, I never really thought about it being YA. I was thinking about epic fantasy the whole time, because I read a lot of epic fantasy. Especially, I read a lot, especially when I was starting to write this. I read a good bit of urban fantasy now, though I still read epic. I didn't really think about YA. One of the things that I don't do in most of my writing is put in profanity. So that lends itself, although these days YA has it in it. Mainly, most people, I think, are putting it there because of the age of the character.
Right.
So, and she's 18 by the end of the first book, but she's still 18 by the end of the third book too. So it has a lot to do with how old she is. And so the story appeals to kids. My granddaughter's reading the book, and a lot of kids have read the book, but a lot of adults have read the book too. And I'm really amazed at the variety of people who've read it. I have friends who are reading it because I wrote it, and they don't read fantasy.
Right.
So, I mean, Barbara Claypole White, I don't know if you remember her.
I do, yeah.
Yeah. She read it, and she blogged about it, and she let me come on her Facebook group, and we talked about the book and it was great. And she loved it. She loved it. So it was pretty cool to have people who don't read fantasy read it and go, I still liked this. This was really good. Forget the fact that it's YA of fantasy.
But you mentioned, so it was a year ago, and there was no book deal at all, and now you've got all 3 of these books out there. So it must be kind of overwhelming. Like, you put the one book out, and my book's been out for 2 years, and I'm still getting new readers and feeling like, wow, that's amazing that people are reading my stuff and they like my stuff, blah, blah, blah. But I've just got the one. So you've had people dive in and read all 3 and sort of become consumed by the series. And how does it feel to have those people living in your head and in your world?
It's really fun. My massage therapist, I have fibromyalgia. So one of the treatments for fibromyalgia is regular massage therapy. My massage therapist was working on me before they were published. And we were talking, and I was writing the 3rd book. And so I would tell him, this is going on, this is going on. He's like, I got to read these books. He's a fantasy reader, it turns out. So he has bought, I don't know how many times he's bought the book, but he's bought the books several times and then handed them off to other people. And so I got to go buy your book again because I gave your book to somebody else.
Oh, that's great, though.
But it's been really interesting because while he's working on me, we'll talk about them. And when he started reading the books, when the first book came out, he'd say, I really don't like Lyra. I was like, okay, a lot of people don't. That's all right. Lyra was fun to write. You know, it's like Lyra is she's like the Nellie Olson of Elwar. So if you've ever watched Little House on the Prairie, she's an interesting character, but she has a really cool story arc through the full series.
Right.
But he was like, somebody's got to kill Malagon. I want to know who's going to kill Malagon. I'm like, he's like, this person's going to die, and I'm like. When asked questions, sometimes I can answer, and then other times I'm like, you're going to have to wait.
Yeah, I'm not giving anything. So, well, congratulations. This is exciting. I didn't realize all three of them came out here just boom, boom, boom. So I want to make sure we get all of them listed on the website too. And we'll do a whole profile piece for you and have all those books up there and share this video with everybody. So you've got some events coming up that you're going to be using to promote the book. We were just talking about how we met at Carolina Con. So first of all, what's the appeal to these cons, to the Comic Cons, right? Like, how does that, I mean, I know I was surprised how many fantasy authors go to the Comic Cons.
You know, it's interesting. A lot of readers go, so a lot of authors go. It's a way to get your name out there, and the more people see your name, the more likely they're going to eventually pick up your book. You know, I was on a group on social media the other day, and somebody had commented about the Watchers of Moniah, and he goes, I guess I'm going to have to give in and read it. I just wasn't so sure about the drafts thing. And then everyone's like, oh no, read it. So that was kind of cool. But the cons just get you with the readers. And that's the fun part. That the one thing about the pandemic that's really been rough is I couldn't do an in-person signing.
Right.
I've done a bunch of these virtual things, but I haven't been able to meet and greet. And you know me, I am not a person who sits back and doesn't talk to people. I like to interact with people. And that's part of the fun of being an author, is meeting the people who are reading your books. There's a woman I think she's in Pennsylvania. She contacted me, and she's been reading the books. And for a while, she would message me on Facebook. It was crazy, you know, but I want to be able to meet these people and also get other people to know about the books too. Right. So I'll be at Atomicon next weekend. That's in North Charleston. And you mentioned Con Carolina. I'm going there. It's possible I'll be on the virtual events. They already had, the in-person panels are already established. I thought I'd applied to go there, but I didn't. But luckily, I know Misty Massey, and I contacted her. I said, did I miss that? She says, yeah, you did. So I was like, okay. She goes, but I can use you on the virtual probably. I'll get back with you. But I am going. There is Imaginarium, which is in Louisville, Kentucky. That's in July. I'm going to that one too. And I know nothing about that con at all. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. Also going to Fantasy. I don't know if you've ever heard of Fantasy, but it's in Durham. Not next weekend, I think in like 3 weekends. And a lot of the people who publish through my publisher go to Fantasy. My publisher is one of the lifetime members of Fantasy. David Weber, if people are familiar with him, a huge science fiction author. He is one of the lifetime members too. So I'll be at Fantasy in Durham. And then I'm probably going to Dragon Con. I submitted an application. I doubt they'll take me because they have a limited number of slots that, you know, I'm kind of a newbie on the block, so I don't know that I'll get in there, but I'll probably go down there. I've just been trying to decide how to deal with that one yet.
But we're going to nominate the books. We're going to go out and vote for it, nominate the books. And if the books get selected or even get an honorable mention, I'm sure at the very least, that's an exposure to some more readers there.
Right. Definitely so. Yeah. If you're willing, Dragon Con has the nominations for the Dragon Awards and the Watchers of Mania. We're trying to get people nominated in the best YA category.
It'll be great. I'd be glad to promote that. And I, of course, will be glad to go to the website and do that as well. So today is Indie Publishing Day, Indie Bookstore Day. And I asked you about it. Well, you mentioned it to me and I thought, well, is there a website for this? There is. Yeah. Indiebound.org actually has a whole write-up on this, but it's a chance to show love to independent bookstores in your neighborhood, in your city, those that are online, that are purchasing online. One of my books, my book is in Park Road Books up in Charlotte, North Carolina. You mentioned Fiction Addiction in Greenville, South Carolina.
Right.
There's a couple of others too. Would you like to go ahead and give them a quick shout out?
Yeah. So my books are available at Fiction Addiction in Greenville, at Hub City Bookshop in Spartanburg, and Bookmarks in Winston-Salem. Also, they all have online ordering, so you can buy online. You don't have to be in any of those towns, but they're all independent booksellers. So it's a great way to support those independent bookstores, because let's face it, bookstores are a dying breed. And if these guys are hanging on all the way through the pandemic, let's keep them there, you know. Chris Kennedy Publishing, which is the main site to my imprint. I'm on New Mythology Press, which is one of his imprints, but chriskennedypublishing.com. Also, you can get the books there, and you're buying from the indie publisher. So you're still kind of supporting the indie at that point. You also can get them on Amazon. So, right. And they are, if you're a member of Kindle Unlimited, they are on Kindle Unlimited.
Really?
Book one's not right now. Oh my gosh, I forgot. I should have told you this. IASFA. That is a group, IASFA.com. And I'll send you the link later. They have a book bundle going on right now. If you like epic fantasy, then they have a 20-book bundle for $9.99 right now, ebooks.
Wow.
And the Watchers of Mania is in there. So awesome. That's up till like May 5th, I think. It started on April 19th. It lasts a few weeks, but you can go get it that way, and you get 20 books. As opposed to just one book, and for $9.99, that's a lot of books. Yeah. So that's another way to go and get it too. And IASFA is, I'll see if I can remember, Independent Authors, a Science Fiction Fantasy Association. I'm fumbling. Independent Authors, a Science Fiction Fantasy Association. I think that's what it stands for.
Gotcha.
But
the Watchers of Mania is in the bundle, so it's not available on Kindle Unlimited as long as it's in the bundle. And then when the bundle's over,
the first book, I don't think it's available in Kindle Unlimited while it's in the bundle, but the other two books are on Kindle Unlimited. And can I hold them up real quick? Let's see if I can get them on this. So this is the Watchers of Mania. So whoops, it's always fun trying to figure out where your camera is and which way to go. It's always reversed for what you think. The second book is The Watchers in Exile. And we can talk about that cover in a moment if you want to. The third book is The Watchers at War.
Yeah.
So they're all available, and they make nice book stops too. But door stops, not book stops.
A coaster, yeah. So look, but the second one, we had talked a little bit about this last weekend. That the artist depicted her as riding the giraffe, but that's not a thing. Right?
No, it's not really a thing. Actually, that happened because years ago I was taking a creative writing class at Clemson University, and I was having them look at the first few pages of this, and people started asking questions about the Watchers and everything. And one guy said to me, "Please tell me she's going to ride the giraffe at some point." And I said, I wonder if anybody's ever ridden a giraffe. And actually somebody has. But let me pull up. I think this will give you a good idea. This is a giraffe.
Yeah.
You'd have to sit. There we go. You'd have to sit way back here.
Yeah. Yeah.
The slope is not. It's not conducive to being ridden. Right. Way. But she does in the second book, for a brief period of time, have to escape on the back of the giraffe. So that's why that's there.
Well, they're not particularly fast giraffes. Like it's not as if
they can run 35 miles an hour, but it's only for short bursts. They don't run for a long period of time, but they are fast. Really, a giraffe's real protection is their hooves. And people just don't realize they're like dinner plate size. We're talking big hooves. Wow. And they have caved in a lion's skull with those hooves. So that's how they fight back, is with their hooves. Yeah. You do not want to be kicked by one. In fact, if you're curious, and if you have Discovery Plus, there is a show on right now. It came out April 19th because of, Earth Day, called Endangered. Ellen DeGeneres narrates it, and they're covering various endangered animals. And that's one of the things about the books. Giraffes are endangered. And their numbers have reduced down to like 111,000 in the wild. That's it. They're out. Wow. Some countries don't even have any anymore. And that's all giraffes. And actually there's 4 species of giraffes. So you break it down even more than that. And there's 2 of them. There's one that's like maybe 600 giraffes in the wild, period. Mm-hmm. So if we're not careful, they're going to die out. One of the things I do with my royalties is 5% of my royalties goes to GCF, which is Giraffe Conservation Foundation, and they're giraffeconservation.org, because I feel very strongly about them. If you go to my YouTube channel, I actually have an interview with Steph Fennessy that I did a few weeks back about the giraffes. And she has a son who reads fantasy, and he's read all the books. And she told me, he came to her after the first book. He goes, I have 3 things to tell you about the book. He goes, 1, it's really good. 2, she calls them horns. And I'll explain that one in a second. And 3, there's a whole page about us. But on a giraffe, I love how these aren't horns. And I knew that. They're actually called ossicones. But it was suggested that horns might be more easy for people to understand.
Yeah.
So I called them horns, but
gotcha.
He was like, I said, yeah,
I mean, that's not the kind of thing that's going to take me out of the story, but I could see where a kid who's growing up working his life and his family being associated with the giraffes, it might take him a little bit out of the story. But I don't think you're in danger of that taking anybody else out of the story.
No, it wasn't. And there's 1 or 2 other people who are like, well, but they're giraffe fans. Yeah. I mean, I'm a member of there's so many Facebook groups out there that are giraffe focused.
That's great.
And I knew this. I can't really publicize my books there, but I can Facebook ad to people like that and stuff like that. So I can reach them. And the one who kept messaging me, she does it periodically now, not as much, but she's actually related to the whole World Giraffe Day movement. And that's June 21st, by the way. Longest day or longest night for the tallest animal. And it's just a day where we try to keep people aware of giraffe and their endangered situation.
Right. Well, listen, the books sound fantastic. I'm excited to get a chance to take a look at them and read them. And I apologize. We'll talk again after I've done so. I apologize for not having read them yet. But I would love to have another conversation afterwards where we can break down some of the characters and why you made certain choices that you made and things like that. I would love that. So let's plan for that. In the meantime, best of luck promoting them and getting them out there. And if there's anything we can do as a radio show, Facebook, me as a friend, just anything else I can do to help you moving that along, just let me know.
Okay. Thank you so much, Casey. I really, really appreciated this. It was good to see you too.
It's always good to see you. All right. Have a great rest of your day. All right. That's been Barbara Evers. And I put a couple of banners up that gave her website and showed you what you can do to get the Watchers of Mania. She mentioned Kindle Unlimited, all 3 of those books available. The one book is in the bundle at ISAFA. But anyway, Barbara Evers, she's fantastic. Go out there, get the books, learn more about giraffes, giraffe conservation efforts, and all that sort of thing. Thanks for being with us. Thanks for being part of Right on SC, part of our audience, part of our patrons. You can support the show at patreon.com/rightonSC. Have a great rest of your Saturday.